you're a veteran or a relative newcomer to primary MFL, good teaching resources are essential. And here on Resource Review, we'll be evaluating 3 that could enhance your lessons. They are a multilingual CD and workbook for Key Stage 2.
What I would like you to do now, draw a quick picture, your favourite scene of the whole story.
A CD of French raps.
Excellent. Maintenant avec les enfants.
And a French version of a popular children's book. But will these resources be popular with our panel? We'll find out in a moment on Resource Review. Recommending today's resources, we have Adam Cook, MFL Advisor at Norfolk County Council. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
On the panel today, we have Judy Hawker, Primary Languages Specialist Teacher, Brighton and Hove, and French teacher at Westdean Primary School in Brighton. We also have Nicola Cottier. Nicola is Head Teacher at St Matthew's Church of England Primary School in central London. Thanks very much for coming along. So Adam, let's begin then with your first resource. It's called Investigating Languages, and we can see here there's 2 workbooks and 2 CD-ROMs there. Explain the resource to us and why you like it.
The great thing about this course is it's designed for any age, I think, at primary level, probably more sort of year 3 to year 6, so it could be used within those 4 years. It's a series of activities and ideas, complete with lesson plans, how you would teach it, which I think is very important for primary school teachers. Some of you might not be language specialists as such. Its main aim is to get pupils to become more aware of how foreign language works.
Because this covers not just one language, it covers many, doesn't it?
It's the major community languages you might find in Britain, and then the major European languages and Japanese and Chinese as well.
Great stuff. Well, before we discuss it with the panel, let's have a look at it in action. We investigated how Investigating Languages performed by visiting St Peter's Church of England Primary School in South East London, where Jasmine Mayer and her Year 3 class were using it.
We are going to be language detectives.
The resource I was using today is called Investigating Languages, Level 1 and Level 2. You get a book with photocopyable worksheets. You get a CD-ROM with your lesson plans in it, as well as interactive materials to use on the computers or on the whiteboard preferably. I used the resource by making the children aware that they will have to listen out to specific words. I introduced the words they had to listen out for by flashcards I made myself because they were not provided with the resource. The story was told by a narrator, and every time the children heard specific words, they had to signal that they recognized a word.
Die kleine Ziege hatte eine Idee und erzählte sie ihren Brüdern.
I thought it was a real shame that the words on the screen were in English rather than in the actual language we were listening to, because the children couldn't actually visualize some of the words they had to listen to.
What I would like you to do now, draw a quick picture, your favourite scene of the whole story.
It's interesting for the children to listen to a different language spoken, absolutely, but I don't think they gain a lot from it, from listening or looking at lots of languages over the period of a year, which the resource is aiming for. I think the benefits of the resource is to introduce children in general to languages, to make them aware there are different languages. But to use it for MFL teaching without introducing a particular language, I don't think it's a very good idea.
Well, Adam, Jasmine liked the way it introduced pupils to lots of different languages, but she didn't really like it for teaching a particular language. What would you say to that?
It's not necessarily about teaching one single language. And for that purpose, that could work quite well with some primary school teachers who may not be language specialists. I'm aware that that teacher actually might have been a German teacher or a French teacher, and she might have that specialism, whereas quite a few primary school teachers don't have that.
What about this issue that was raised that the foreign words are not displayed? and the words are written in English, but they're hearing it in the different languages. Is that a limitation?
It's not a limitation. I think it's more challenging if you're in a situation where you're hearing a foreign word, you've only got the English equivalent up on the board. It's actually the challenge is greater, and having the foreign word would make that slightly simpler.
All right, well, let's see what the panel think. Judy, coming to you first, what do you think of investigating languages?
In its own way, I think it's a very good resource, and I would use it more in the context of actually, say, a themed week where you want to introduce children to a variety of languages and just give them a taster. I wouldn't use it as for teaching a foreign language throughout Key Stage 2. I think the purpose of it is quite different from that.
It is to look at the range of languages.
Yes.
Well, plenty of agreement from Judy. Nicola, what would you say?
Well, I felt that in some ways it's quite empowering because it has all the different languages. So no teacher is going to think, oh dear, that's not my language, you know, the language I speak, even if they are a linguist, because they're not going to speak the range of them.
No.
But certainly if you're in inner city, you may well have children within your class who do. I mean, we've got about 50 different languages in our school, so I like that aspect of it.
Well, Adam, some really great points from Nicola there, but just to finish off, tell me about the level that this is really pitched at.
I think it depends. I mean, you could use that type of activity with Year 3. I've used those types of activities where children are listening to a story and they've got to hold up key words with Years 7, 8 and 9 at Key Stage 3.
All right. Well, that's a great start to the show. Now let's move on to Adam's second choice of resource. It's a music CD, and I'll let you introduce it.
OK, well, it's le rythme, la musique et les raps de Monsieur X.
And it's a collection of songs, is that right?
It's a collection of rhymes and rap music and songs to be used with children in the primary schools. It's a mixture of different styles, different ethnic mixes, a bit of salsa, a bit of rumba, you know, so it's great.
Well, let's see this music CD in action. We visited Wimbledon Chase Middle School and eavesdropped on Anne Moran's class of French rappers.
D'accord, voici le CD. On va écouter des petits-enfants qui chantent du temple. Quel temple fait-il?
The resource I was using today was Les chansons et les raps de Monsieur X, which is a compilation CD of songs and raps based around the topic areas that the children need to study. And we were concentrating on track 12, which was on the weather.
En anglais, Liliane. It's cold. Très bien. Alors répétez, il fait froid.
Primarily, I introduced the different types of weather that are included on the song. I used flashcards to reinforce that language and then used group and individual repetition around the class so that the children would get used to using the language. We then sang the song together as a class slowly, line by line. Then we listened to the CD and then we joined in with the CD.
Il fait chaud, il fait mauvais, il fait froid. Il y a du vent, il pleut, il y a du soleil. Il neige, il y a des nuages. Et un orage, il y a des brouillards.
Excellent. Maintenant avec les enfants, d'accord?
Music is a fantastic way for children to take language on board, and I often find there's a rhythm to language, and by giving them a song to focus on, it really focuses them on the rhythm of the words. The words were very, very clear. I mean, I have used other resources where it's been difficult for the children to make out what it is they're supposed to be saying, and everything was enunciated incredibly clearly on this.
Allez-y.
Il fait chaud, il fait mauvais, il fait froid. Il y a du vent.
I think they managed very, very well. They achieved more than I thought they would. I felt the track was quite fast for them, and this was brand new vocabulary for them today. Certainly after we'd gone through it a few times as a class, they really loved it, and they were asking to do it again and again, and some of them were singing it in the corridor later, so they obviously really enjoyed it.
Well, Adam, Anne seemed to get a great response from her pupils there. They really seemed to love it. But I'm just thinking of the non-specialist teacher. The lyrics are only given in French, and as Anne actually said, the pace is quite quick on the CD. I mean, are teachers going to find that might put them off?
It could do. I think it's about, again, raising challenge, and I think it's not to be defeated by the fact the music's going quite fast, but actually to say to the kids, come on, let's go for this, and maybe you could break it down into tiny bits, or have them rapping or clapping to a particular beat. Yeah. I like the point there, she said that the kids are singing it in the corridor. It's obviously working.
That's fantastic.
And that's what happens with rhythm. It stays in your head. You can't get it out of your head, basically.
OK, well, Nicola, you first this time. What are your thoughts?
I thought it was hugely jolly. I mean, it's great fun. I can see the children thinking, oh, yes, great. But I do think that if French wasn't your language, how confident would you feel with that? I think it comes back to your point, Anna, about how would a teacher then use it, and perhaps looking at different ways of using it.
Yes.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
Yes, Judy, I mean, should it be about fun?
Definitely. As a specialist, I have used the resource a number of times, and I do find that the rhythm side is particularly engaging for children, and they can't keep still normally when they're doing it, so it's absolutely wonderful. But I would also say that for a non-specialist, I do think it can be quite difficult. The teacher, Anne Moran, had quite clearly taught quite a lot of the language before she brought the song in.
So overall, Adam, a really fun, lovely resource, but perhaps not ideal for the non-specialist.
Maybe not, but we would probably, I mean, hopefully we'd look at, hopefully giving support to the non-specialists and looking at ways in using these types of resources, using language, using song to teach modern foreign languages. And lots of local authorities are in the process of doing that right now, although it's going to take some time.
All right, well now let's move on to Adam's third choice of resource. And here we have a young children's classic book translated into French, The Hungry Caterpillar. Everyone's familiar with it, Adam, but just explain this resource to us.
It is a classic. Just about every child has encountered the hungry caterpillar at some point in growing up. And it's because everybody knows the story, the language actually attaches itself quite easily. I like it as well because I'd like to see more books out there like this, other classics translated in French, German, Spanish, as ways of presenting new language.
Well, over here, ladies, what do you think? Judy?
I particularly like it because there's a lot of repetition of language as the caterpillar goes through the week and is eating into various types of food. So you've got, a great deal of repetition and the children can engage in that.
Yeah, Nicola, I mean, it's a lovely book, but, I mean, how useful is it to have a book like this with a whole class of pupils?
Well, if you're not a modern language teacher, you're going to be put off.
Yeah.
I could see it being used in terms of perhaps children sharing it together, but I felt as a whole class resource, I'm not so sure.
OK, well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. But just to recap, the three resources that we looked at were Investigating Languages by Progressive Educational Tools Limited, Le rythme, la musique et les rap de Monsieur X by Molière Publishing, and finally, The Hungry Caterpillar, or La chenille qui fait des trous, published by Mijadi and distributed by European School Books Limited. For more information about all of the resources that we've discussed today, go to our website. It's teachers.tv/resource review. Or if you want to, email us, resourcereview@teachers.tv. All that remains for me to do is to say a very big thank you to our panel, to Adam, to Judy and to Nicola. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Resource Review. Bye-bye.